The morning flight from New York to Los Angeles was almost done, completely full when Victoria Grant arrived at the airport. Important deadline. As CEO of Grant Aviation Holdings, Victoria was accustomed to traveling comfortably, usually surrounded by assistants and executives she had expected to spend the 6-hour flight reviewing contracts and preparing for a major meeting in Los Angeles. Instead, an airline employee approached her with an apologetic expression. "Miss Grant, there's been a seating issue." Victoria looked at her boarding pass. "I'm supposed to be in first class." "Yes, ma'am. Unfortunately, the system reassigned your seat. We can move you to economy for this flight." Victoria sighed. "Fine." She walked onto the aircraft and found her assigned seat, beside a man wearing a simple gray jacket. He looked completely ordinary. A worn backpack rested near his feet, and a small blue toy airplane stuck out from one of its pockets. The man immediately moved closer to the window. "Sorry," he said politely, "I'll give you some space, thank you." Victoria placed her laptop bag beneath the seat and opened her tablet. The man beside her quietly opened a notebook. Victoria noticed several strange diagrams drawn across the pages. They looked technical, filled with numbers, arrows, and aircraft symbols. "You're an engineer?" she asked casually. The man looked at the notebook. "I used to be. He smiled. "I work independently now." Victoria nodded and returned to her work. She didn't ask anything else. His name was Daniel Brooks. He was a single father traveling to Los Angeles with his 8-year-old son Ethan. The boy was sitting several rows behind him with Daniel's sister because Daniel wanted Ethan to have a window seat. Daniel had spent most of his career working in aerospace engineering, but after becoming a single father, he had walked away from the corporate world. He never complained about it to Daniel. Being there for Ethan mattered more than a prestigious title. The plane doors closed. The flight attendants completed their safety checks. Then the captain's voice came through the speakers. "Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome aboard." Victoria continued typing, but then the pilot added something unexpected before departure. "We would like to recognize a very special passenger traveling with us today." Daniel suddenly stopped writing. Victoria noticed the pilot continued, "Mr. Daniel Brooks." Victoria turned toward the man beside her. Daniel looked uncomfortable. Passengers began looking around the cabin. The pilot continued explaining that Daniel had helped develop an aviation safety system that had prevented a potentially devastating technical failure. Victoria slowly closed her laptop. She looked at Daniel. Daniel gave a quiet nod. "I was part of a team." But the pilot's words suggested something much bigger. Victoria suddenly realized that the quiet single dad sitting beside her might be one of the most important people on the entire plane, and she had no idea why he had walked away from such an impressive career. Victoria waited until the plane landed at Los Angeles International Airport before asking Daniel about the announcement. Passengers were already collecting their bags, but Victoria remained seated. "Daniel, can I ask you something?" He looked at her. "Sure." "The pilot said you helped prevent a serious aviation crisis. What exactly did you do?" Daniel hesitated before answering. "It's complicated." Victoria smiled. "I'm the CEO of an aviation company. Complicated doesn't scare me." Daniel laughed softly. He explained that several years earlier, while working as an aerospace engineer, he had discovered a dangerous pattern in aircraft communication systems under extremely rare conditions. A small technical failure could trigger a chain reaction affecting several safety systems. Daniel had designed an early warning system that could identify the problem before it became critical. The technology was tested repeatedly and eventually adopted by several aviation organizations. Victoria listened carefully. "How much did you earn from it?" Daniel shook his head. "Not much." "Why?" "Because I wasn't interested in selling the technology to the highest bidder." Victoria stared at him. Daniel explained that his priority had changed after he became a single father. "My son was 6 at the time," he said. "I realized I could spend the next 20 years chasing promotions, or I could be there while he was growing up." "So you left aerospace?" "Yes." Victoria looked genuinely surprised. "You walked away from that career?" "I walked toward something more important." Daniel pointed toward the terminal. "My son is waiting for me." Victoria followed his gaze and saw Ethan standing with Daniel's sister. The boy immediately ran toward his father. Daniel smiled and hugged him. Victoria watched the reunion quietly. For years, she had believed success meant building something bigger, earning more and becoming more powerful. Daniel had chosen differently, and somehow she respected him for it. After greeting Ethan, Daniel turned back toward Victoria. It was nice meeting you. Victoria smiled. Actually, Daniel, I think we should talk about what my company is developing, a new aviation safety division. Daniel raised an eyebrow. I'm not looking for another corporate job. I know. Victoria paused. That's why I'm not offering you an ordinary job. She explained that she wanted him to lead the division and help develop the next generation of aviation safety technology. Daniel looked toward Ethan. My schedule flexible, my son welcome whenever you need him to be. Daniel smiled. That's important. I figured. For a moment neither spoke. Then Daniel extended his hand. I'll consider it. Victoria shook his hand. That's all I'm asking. As Daniel walked away with Ethan, Victoria watched them disappear into the crowded terminal. She had boarded the flight expecting an ordinary business trip instead. She had met a brilliant engineer who had sacrificed a remarkable career for his son. And Victoria knew one thing for certain. She wasn't going to let someone like Daniel Brooks disappear into the crowd again.